Hi, happy Halloween. This is a reading stream this Halloween evening before NaNoWriMo starts. So if you, like me, are starting NaNoWriMo, this is a really good way to kind of calm before the storm starts. Oh, looks like we have some people coming in. Hold up. Hi.
Hi.
I think this is Marc. Hi,
It
Marc.
is. I am not dressed for
Hi.
Halloween.
I've got my volume pretty low. Let me turn up. How are you?
I'm good. You?
Good, you.
I'm okay. Sleepy, but that's okay.
What time is it to your place?
It's not too bad. It's 9 a.m. here.
Oh.
So not too bad, but I've had I had late shift at work last night. So oh my gosh, we got Megan here. Hello, Megan. Happy Halloween. Please let us know what you guys are going to be reading in stream today. I'm going to be reading Carmilla. I've never read this. This is a classic. I've never gotten around to it. I've read the original Dracula, of course, multiple times, but haven't read this. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's not very long. I was shocked how short it is. So hopefully I'll be able to get through it today. That'd be really cool. What about you, Marc? Do you have anything planned?
I was thinking of reading the part of Frankenstein where he wakes up.
Ooh, nice.
Which is apparently the first part she wrote.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember like when I first learned about the conditions in which she first started drafting Frankenstein, I felt so bad for Mary Shelley. She was in one of the worst, most awkward situations at a terrifying part of her life.
It was a party.
She was terrified of what her child was going to be.
Yeah.
And I don't blame her, considering the time period.
Yeah.
And considering the position in life she was in personally. It was not a happy, fun time. But she created art out of it, which I think is so amazing. And it really just goes to show that you have no idea what your fears could possibly turn into when you put it into art. So super cool. We are probably going to be doing 30-minute reading sprints, by the way. So I am really interested to seeing what other people are reading. Hey, Megan, happy Halloween. What are you reading today? I'm curious. Hey, if you absolutely have to get cracking on, like, you know, picking up a project for NaNoWriMo, you can also read what you do have written. Read your notes. Lord only knows we all need them.
We do?
I'll be reading Hex by a new author. I haven't heard of that one. Have you heard of Hex, Marc?
No. I heard the word, but not the book.
Yeah, that must be a new one. Okay, interesting. I'm curious to know who it's by. Sheraton, hi, I'll be with you with a bit having tech difficulty. Ooh, I feel you on that. There's always some tech difficulty in every stream, it seems.
Yeah, great costume.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I did this costume for the kids for the Halloween party we did for the children. I'm a teacher, so I'm required to do events. I did not do the makeup, though. Kids in Japan get scared really easy, so there's no way this was going to work. So it was just the costume. Very toned down for the children.
I have a friend who's makeup artist for movies, and one year his daughter was in kindergarten, and he did the makeup as a vampire. It was really good. Apparently, all her class was scared.
Yeah. You have to, like, I think it's easy to forget sometimes, especially if you live in America, because in America it's so normalized. Kids get used to it a little sooner. But here in Japan, even the adults get creeped out pretty easily. So I have to be pretty careful. Oh my goodness. Did anyone else dress up for Halloween?
I dressed up a few days ago. We had a night in a museum.
Oh, nice.
And,
was it a big turnout? Lots of people? Or is it a pretty small, intimate group?
It was smaller group because it's an old Victorian museum. So
wow.
there's considerations about fire safety, so they can't have that many people. But there was a lot of visitors, but maybe 80 people at some point.
Wow. Yeah, I've been in a couple Victorian homes, mostly in Northern California. If anyone's ever been in Northern Cali, there are lots of homes from the 1800s that are still standing and still being used, but they are definitely fire hazards.
Yeah.
There are many hazards, actually. So they do have to be very careful how they use those buildings, for sure. Beautiful, though. Absolutely beautiful building.
Oh, yeah. That's
incredibly fragile, though.
Yeah, I hope that they won't change too much. The interior is awesome. And it was, they turned off all the lights, so you had to use your flashlights to move around.
Ooh. That's cool, but also a little creepy.
Yeah, that's fun. That's the fun part.
Any ghosts?
I didn't find any, but it is supposed to be haunted. It was actually featured on the Haunted Montreal blog and the YouTube channel a few weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't see any.
No ghosts, though.
No.
Probably for the best. The ghosts were probably trying to sleep it off. All those people.
I was thinking there was too many people. The
Yeah.
ghosts were probably pissed that there were that many people.
Yeah. To be fair, if I had 80 people coming through my abode, I'd probably be a little discouraged from doing any talking as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Megan said, I dressed up myself. Homicidal maniac. Everyone else, nice.
I could have said that.
That is a classic line. Oh my goodness. All right. So this stream also, it's the All Hallows Read stream. And this was originally a movement created by Neil Gaiman. And originally it's to give books to kids who trick or treat. Of course, I live in Japan. No kids trick or treat here. And even if I wasn't in America, trick or treating is becoming, usually only certain areas get trick or treaters. So
Yeah, we didn't get
these
that many
huge
here.
voids now. So giving books to kids can sometimes be a little difficult at this time of year, but there are still ways you can help literacy. One of the main ways is supporting local libraries. Libraries are critical for children and adults to have access to reading materials. A lot of us just don't have money to be buying new books all of the time. I'm doing okay in life right now, but when I was a kid, we did not have the money to go to bookstores. Places like Barnes & Noble were a once-a-year event. It was something done for my birthday. It was very special, but most of the time we didn't have the money for me to buy books. So the library was my sanctuary. I read pretty much every single book in the children's section of my library and the young adult section once I got a little older. Now, granted, my library was quite small, but it was something. And with the way things in the world are going, less and less libraries are getting proper funding. Many libraries are really struggling to be able to function. Even when I was a kid, most of our local libraries were run mostly by volunteers, people who weren't even getting paid for all of their labor. And it's only gotten worse over the years. So I have in the description box linked a couple of resources. The first of being an article talking about all kinds of things that you can do to help your local library. The first of which is just showing up, getting a library card and checking out books. A lot of libraries actually categorize how many books are being checked out, how frequently they're checked out, and how many members have a card. And that information is sent to justify funding. So if not a lot of people are going in and checking books, unfortunately, their funding tends to get cut, and sometimes they're even shut down. Libraries aren't just places for children to read. They're also places for adults who do not have money to read. So it literally helps everybody. So they are absolutely critical. And as a writer, regardless of whether my book would ever end up in a library, I do want to encourage and felicitate literacy within the youth of my country at the very least. I would love to help other countries, but I'm not sure how their library systems work. So if you know anything about that, Mark, that'd be cool to know. But in America, we're mostly funded by government funding, and they have to justify that. So that is why going and supporting your local libraries, even just checking out a book once a week, can be a huge, huge, huge help. Oh, I left connection for a second. I think I'm back.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was on.
Sorry about that. Mark, is it similar in Canada? Do they?
Yes. I happen to live, well, I live in Montreal, which is kind of the biggest city in my province. And my local library is actually the main library of the province. So I think I hope they do okay for funding, but I know that a few of the, because there are neighborhood libraries in Montreal too, and a few have closed in the last few years, I think.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder
to keep. Yeah, they get merged.
Yep. And a lot of times when these mergers happen, staff is lost in the process.
Yeah. Here, a lot of the libraries are also exhibition spaces, and they also have plays. They have a lot of things. They're like cultural centers too.
Yes.
Which helps.
Random. Yeah, in America, it's really random whether or not they are. However, they're usually hubs for the community regardless.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the libraries in at least my home state, Arizona, some of them are too small to actually host events. They're quite small buildings. But the ones that have the space do try to do events. And even the ones that are too small for events will usually know about them within the community. So if you do want to connect to your local community, libraries are a wonderful resource. Usually your local librarian will know pretty much everything that's going on in your city or town in the community, especially things like plays, theaters, the arts. They're usually very well versed in those local events. So they are a wonderful resource for that. Let's see. Megan. Oh, we already did that one. There we go. Thomas. Stephen King gave me an accolade on his book. Oh, cool. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Accolade on his book. He mentioned you on his book? Maybe.
That'd be nice.
All right.
I'm trying to get Neil Gaiman to read the Stygian Collection.
That might be a hard sell. He's very busy.
Yeah, but I think it's right up his alley.
No, he is the author. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So this is the author of Hex, I believe, Thomas. And sorry, my eyesight's really bad. So Thomas must be the author name, and Stephen King gave him. Oh, so Stephen King recommends the book. That's interesting. Your book is great on the. Oh, nice. Oh, wow. Interesting. I hadn't heard of that author before. He must be new. Yeah. Interesting. Then again, I don't read a lot of completely new books. I'm usually behind by quite a few years.
At least it's years. It's not centuries.
Well, I mean, depends. Today I'm reading something quite old that's been out for a very long time, and I'm really behind on that one. Oh,
No,
okay.
he's not that young. He's 40.
Hmm?
He's been around for a few years,
A few years.
but mostly in Dutch.
Ah, yeah. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and start the first reading sprint. I almost said writing sprint. I'm so used to doing writing instead of reading. So this is probably very necessary to do something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and add a timer. We're going to go for 30 minutes reading. I'm going to turn mics off. So go ahead and start reading your book and see how far you can get. Okay? Awesome. See you guys in a little bit, okay? All right. Hi, welcome back. Hope you guys got some decent reading done. I think I'm on chapter 4 now, so I got some decent progress. How are you
And
doing,
it's
Mark?
not that long.
Awesome. Goes by pretty quick when you're reading. We did get some more guests in, Book Blather, as well as, let's see, Margaret. Margaret is here. Let's see. Where did she first appear? It's been a bit. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Tell me why you didn't show up at the top of my subscription page. Yeah, that happens a lot. It's why I always tell people to turn notifications on. I don't naturally show in feeds because I have low viewership and engagement. So this is YouTube's way of further punishing me for not having enough engagement. I don't understand algorithms. I don't see the purpose of it other than to help companies. But pretty much what it means is because I don't get constant engagement from people, I am bunked lower on priority. So they're going to bunk more engagement heavy channels higher up in your feed. So channels that get lots of comments, those are going to be higher in your feed, despite the fact other people may have posted more frequently or more often. So that's why is what it is. Corey, do they trick or treat over there? No, they do not. Which is interesting because children are relatively safe. Like they are expected to ride on trains as young as 5 years old, alone, unaccompanied by parents. Going to and from school is entrusted to kids at a pretty young age here. And the idea is that the entire community is responsible for the safety of the children. So if you see a kid who needs help, stuff like that, you're expected to help. So as a result, it's pretty safe for kids here. Kids are literally anywhere, everywhere. But asking for candy from people, no, you do not do that here. And the idea is very strange to them. So the only time kids do trick or treating is with us English teachers. So usually a lot of the English schools that employ foreigners like myself, they will have special events where they will have a trick or treating kind of thing where it depends on the school. Some years where it was raining and stuff, we've had them trick or treat inside. So we were in different classrooms and they had to go between the classrooms and ask for candy. And then other times, if it's not raining, we'll actually have teachers outside at a couple certain points, and one teacher will walk the kids in a line to those other points, and they have to ask teachers for candy outside. And it's kind of like a Halloween mini parade. All the locals are like, oh, costumes, because it's not common here. Halloween isn't really celebrated in the same way. There's lots of like merchandise and cute things you can buy in stores sometimes, not as much as the US, but you know, you can go into Daiso or a grocery store and there might be a few candies, maybe. Usually about 5 products if you're lucky, which is a lot less than the US, but for Japan, that's it's quite a bit. It's more than there used to be. Oh, that's cool. Neat that they get to experience a little. Yeah, yeah, they do. But it's very much confined, sadly, to only those things. I am starting to see a couple like really large apartments, like the richer people, start to do something kind of similar within the apartment where they're just like, okay, guys, we're gonna do an event in our apartment complex where we have some kids and they want to trick or treat. So anyone who wants to participate, sign this thing, but it has to be like something that you have to sign up for. You know, again, probably for, you know, safety reasons and stuff like that. Even though kids are very safe here, there's also like lines they're not supposed to cross, and asking for candy is a line. For sure. Oh, I think Sheraton's been able to log in. Let's see. Hi, can you hear us?
Hey, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm so happy. It was like, it's one of those cursed days because, of course, Halloween, right? But we're here. I'm so glad.
Your setup's so cool.
Oh, thank you. So I wanted to show you the literal edition that I got. It's like the Bram Stoker Dracula, but
Ooh.
yeah,
It's so
that's the
pretty.
one. I wanted to reread it, and I'm like, why not? Let's just, show it off. It has like this beautiful image at the beginning and special writing. You have Bram
Nice.
Stoker right there, and
That is a very nice addition.
and each chapter has this beautiful like black. It is just so pretty. So
Ooh.
I've been reading this book like since forever. I keep coming back to it, so I thought, why not?
It's so interesting too, because like when I meet people who they say that they really like Dracula and things like that, I always ask them like, okay, have you read the book? And about over half the time they haven't. And I always encourage them to, because it's such a unique experience
Yeah.
compared to
Very
a lot of interpretations on
different.
film.
Very different. Very different. But I
It's
adore the
so
book.
strange in parts. It's truly a bizarre read in sections.
Yeah. Well, if I understand properly, there were certain moments where Bram Stoker was really bored. And he even mentions it in some of the writings. Like, it's like, no, I really had no idea what to do, so I just went with it.
Yeah,
Oh, oh my
he would
God.
like trap himself in the Dublin Library doing all
Yeah,
kinds of research and writing and stuff, and he'd just be in there for hours. So yeah,
absolutely.
So basically, NaNoWriMo.
essentially
Pretty much.
of its era.
Auto Force NaNoWriMo.
Yeah, yeah, I can see kind of going a little crazy in that library. I've been there before. When I visited Dublin, I was able to go to the library, and I really recommend it to anyone who can go. It's one of the oldest libraries in Dublin. It's really, really cool to see. They've got so many historical books in there. Um, but it's kind of it's one of those places that like you can smell the old and
Yeah,
feel it in the air. It's so I can imagine if you were in like even back then they still had really old copies. So even during his time, they had some really ancient copies. It was just a great place for research, but it would drive you a bit crazy. I think if you were there for extended periods of time.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think that that's the whole point, right? That it's like, okay, I need the craziness in order to, exude the creativity.
Yeah, it's one of those things too that I think it's a really unique way it was written as well, because it's written in entries as well as articles, and
Yes,
it's something
Letters.
you don't see as much anymore. It's not very common to see. A couple writers, prolific writers, have done it, but it's definitely not a common style. So it's a very interesting thing to read.
yeah. What I understood about like the type of writing is that a lot of people don't do it anymore because the review more often than not is like, oh, you're trying too hard, or it's not an easy read, because you need to kind of go a lot in depth with the book before you realize, oh, this is the format, right? So yeah,
It's difficult to write for sure.
so people are usually used to, well, maybe there's going to be a letter here and there, but then there's going to be a narration going on, versus heavily charged articles and letters and backs and forwards. And it is something that I don't know, it keeps a lot of people anticipating, okay, but when is the narration happening? So
Yes.
it's not easy to execute for every person. Like some people have tend to have more issues, like actually executing it in such a way that keeps the reader like engaged.
I can imagine it's probably difficult to pitch to publishing companies as well. I'm guessing that would be a hard sell.
Yeah, back
Absolutely.
back in those days, it was more common, so that might have helped.
It was more
Yeah.
popular format back in the day. The epistolary format
Yeah.
was seen more frequently. In
Mhm.
fact, a lot of now that I'm thinking about it, I would say about half of the books I was required to read in university for one of my literature courses were epistolary format. It was so common in one point. So it would be a lot easier to sell it back then for sure. Let's see. We did. Poor Margaret. She forgot to unmute it. She found it eventually, though. It's okay. We did that in our neighborhood during COVID. They canceled Halloween, and our neighborhood was like, we're having our own private Halloween. Yes. It's kind of interesting because I had a discussion with one of my more advanced students about Halloween, and they were kind of like bemoaning the fact that Japan doesn't have like as much of a Halloween culture. Aside from the like Shinjuku, Shibuya area, but that was closed down this year. The government was like, we're putting cops, you're not allowed, because of the tragedy that happened in Korea not that long ago with crowds. It gets too crowded, it's very dangerous. So they shut it down. And which is fine with me because honestly, crowds give me anxiety. So it was probably for the best, honestly. But other than that, there's not really a Halloween culture here. And I was talking to an advanced student about why that happens, because they latched on to Christmas just fine. Like Christmas was very latched on. There is a Christmas culture over here. But Christmas is more of a family thing as well as for adults. Whereas here in Japan, Halloween is mostly for either very young kids who are involved in the English schools or adults doing the drinking parties. There's a huge group left out, and specifically, it's not considered a family event. Really.
Interesting.
It's an event you do as a student in an English school with your English teachers, or it's something you do with your university friends and go out drinking.
But so no family.
Not really. And I think because of that, that's why Christmas is such a big thing here, because it's more family oriented, as well as, so it's like truly all ages, versus Halloween is kind of like separated. You're either really, really young and you're doing trick-or-treater with your English teacher, or you're an adult and you're getting wasted. And those are your options, which isn't a big variety. So unfortunately, and I think that really contributes to why it's just less of a thing here.
So sorry about that.
That's pretty. That was a good sound.
Thank you. That's my alarm.
Oh, it's a very cool alarm sound. A lot better than mine, which sounds like I'm going to get killed. Blaring sound. Warning, get out of bed or you're going to get knifed.
Oh, wow.
It's not quite that extreme, but it sounds like it when I'm woken up out of deep sleep.
Yeah, when you have, like high anxiety, I highly recommend that type of sound, like magical, mystical. The fairies are talking to you, so yeah.
That's nice.
It helps.
That's a lot better. Let's see. Love your outfit, by the way. Oh, thank you. Yes. Oh, yes. And Book Blather. Gorgeous book. Yes. It's so pretty. Do you happen to know what the publisher is?
This one?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's Fingerprint Classics. Fingerprintpublishing.com. Yes.
Fingerprint Publishing. Interesting. I've never heard of them. But then again, there are a couple like really fancy, like they focus on stuff like that, like really making really, really, really nice editions. A little bit out of my price range usually, so I'm not super on top of them.
Yes, exactly. Beautiful. But this one I found actually on Amazon, and it was like 40% off. So I'm like, no, I have to. Like I couldn't.
Nice.
And I think that they have like other versions. Like they have Frankenstein, and there was another one, but it was not on the horror. It was more, I think, I can't remember on the top. Oh, Oscar Wilde. They had Oscar Wilde there, and they had the Brothers Grimm. Yep.
Oh.
Yep. So they had a. Yeah. So it's I love it. I don't know if you saw Book Bladder, that it has like the cover page. I am in love with this cover page. It is so gorgeous. Pretty.
That would make a gorgeous painting just to have in a house.
Absolutely. And one of the things also about the book is that it's like it doesn't look like it, but it has like a little bit of a texture change between,
I love
like
textured books.
Yeah. So
the same thing with my version of
Frankenstein.
which is the Penguin horror series.
Mhm.
They do have the
The
textured,
raised kind of feeling.
yeah, but
That's
they
nice.
don't have those fancy chapters that you have.
The inside
Oh,
art, yeah.
It's a shame.
it is.
It is expensive to produce, so I kind of
Yeah.
get it too. Margaret, I'm annoyed with Agnes Gray. Also, this is Barnes Noble. I don't know about that in particular, but
I think I've tried to read it. The only Bronte I can read is Emily.
yeah, I think I tried a short story before by that particular sister. I don't remember loving it. I don't remember hating it, but I think it was just like, eh. So I don't think I pursued looking at anything longer. So I feel kind of torn about the Bronte writing style. Like sometimes it's okay, but you got to be in the mood for it at the very least.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Very much a certain kind of book. I feel like for things like Frankenstein, like Mary Shelley's work, I can usually get into Mary Shelley's work. Some of her short stories are interesting too. If you ever get a chance to read her short stories, she has some really interesting ones, and I can usually get into those pretty well. But Bronte, not so much. Ancestor spirit worship, plenty of temples for that, and no corn maze in Japan. Watch. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm in a city. It's possible if you kept going long enough to where the farms are, the big farms, maybe. But I'm not. I don't think that's a thing here, to be honest with you. Because that takes so much land space. We don't have a lot of land space over here in Japan.
But it's also such a more like Western culture. You know, also if you go to other parts of Europe, you may find, but it's a lot more difficult to find corn mazes anywhere that is not America. You know,
they're so big; they take up so much space. It's just for the space alone. Most often, it's like, who's got the space for that? In America, there's huge bits of land that aren't being utilized. It's a little bit easier, but not so much here.
Yeah, here in Canada, we have this fields outside the city. Like Marc and I are both in Montreal, so it's usually in the outskirts of Montreal. And they have like this big thing going on, you know, with corn mazes and, you know, like the pumpkins and all the traditional of the autumn. It's very interesting. And then, you know, winter comes and then it's a completely different story. Now we have like maple and something that we call cabana sucre.
Sugar shacks?
Yes, the sugar shacks. So you have like maple based dishes for to eat, and you can go out and collect the maple and eat it, and it's pretty fun.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
I've never tried anything like that.
But it's the same places, so it depends on what time of the year you are. You know?
Because
they very seasonal.
Yeah, you can't have just a sugar shack because most of the time you're not doing anything with it.
Yeah. But when it's collecting season, which usually is more towards winter, it's when it's the ideal time to do it. And then when it's not that cold, then you can do apple picking or pumpkin picking or cornfields. There's always something to do in other seasons. It's very seasonal based activities.
That sounds so nice, but cold probably.
Yes. Well, depends on the time. Depends on the time. It can get it can get really hot sometimes. So it's
so it's not completely cold yet. Not yet.
Well, right now, not well. It is cold, but not super cold. Well,
Oh, good.
define cold. For us, it's
Well,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want to be cold, but I'm a desert-born rat, so I can't be trusted on temperature gauging very well.
Right now we are at -1 Celsius here. Yeah,
So it's not
it's not
cold.
it's not that cold. Yeah.
It's not that cold. I mean, if you spit, it's not ice by the time it reaches the ground.
It
That's
has to
cold.
freeze mid-air to be defined as cold.
That-
Are y'all okay? Oh God.
Yes, we're.
that's what, -40?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Y'all
right
are
now we are.
stronger human beings than I could ever hope to be.
But then on summer, oh my God, in summer
Oh,
it's
summer
like
can be really,
humid and
especially in Montreal, because it's an
Yeah.
island. So
The humidity.
the humidity is.
it's like going to like a resort, but except of being in a resort, you're in the middle of nowhere.
No. Oh my God.
But it's fun.
Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights. Didn't get into Jane Eyre. Oh, so you only did Wuthering Heights, really?
I read both, but I didn't really get into Jane Eyre.
Yeah. I mean, the
I think
pacing
it
of
was
it,
just it
there's
was
only certain parts that are interesting, and then the rest is kind of like the pacing is
filler.
not great, honestly, of Jane Eyre.
Mhm.
Sadly. Because I think if you condense the story down, if that story had an editor, I feel like it would improve the story a lot. Because if you
I love
condense
to
it, it's
reread it.
interesting. But there's lots of dead space in that story, I feel.
Yeah, and I found that Wuthering Heights was more structured too. Like,
It is more structured, I will say that, but I've got to be with Margaret on this one. I hate Wuthering Heights. But I do think the structure is firmer, though. That I will agree with that. Like the
which
way
is
the
funny.
story is structured makes more like sense and has more of a like the pacing is better, honestly.
Mhm.
There's way better pacing in the Heights, but I absolutely hated the read.
Which is funny because Charlotte actually said that her sister was just a pantser. She would just she didn't structure anything, and
She must have just had the way she thought about scenes must have been very boom, boom, boom.
yeah, and
Probably.
reading both, I thought that she was more like that.
I thought it was reversed, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, maybe I'll have to reread. There's so many books I have to reread, and that's not counting my to be read room.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is there are some really fantastic like older books that I just haven't gotten to. Like today I'm trying to get to a classic, but there are just so many on my to read list. And so like these old classics are also fighting for modern day books that I also want to read. And it's just I only have so much time in my day.
There should be
Which
a special.
is the good part about being a vampire.
Yeah.
You would have all the time in the world.
That would be nice.
But
Dracula would know.
there will be more and more books to read.
Yes.
But like, okay, I want to know how the reading experience changes as a vampire if you have hairy palms, which apparently Dracula has. Like it's in the text. He has hairy palms. I would think that turning pages and holding a book would be an interesting experience with hair on your hands.
Yeah, but did he always have hairy palms, or just after 400 years?
I don't that is what I want to know, because I don't think they describe for sure. I don't know. Like, I think, Sheratan, you might have to let us know when you read through Dracula again. Keep an eye out after Dracula's had more recent substance. Do they describe Dracula's hands as being any different, or they just never describe him again?
I think that they try to like Bram Stoker was just trying to describe the fact of, oh, this is still like an animalistic creature, right? Because of how he morphs into different animals that have fur. So my theory behind the furry hands is that after so many metamorphoses, some of the hairs stay stuck, and that's how you end up with hairy hairs.
Maybe. I wonder, would he be able to get rid of that then after he did arrive in London and started feeding on people?
Yeah.
Does that stop? Or is
Because
that like weird thing he hides with gloves or something?
Because he gets younger and younger.
Right. Does he have more control at that point because he has more substance?
A nice question.
Interesting. It's something that I haven't like listened to in the text before, that specific question, but now I'm really wondering.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it like that'd be such a thing that would stand out if you meet someone at a really high-to-do party, this someone who's a foreign noble apparently, or who's being passed off as that, and he looks very nice and distinguished, and then you go to shake his hand and it's furry. I would think that'd stand out just a wee bit. I think
that's where. Yeah, exactly. Or that's where the term, oh, what an extravagant individual this one is, to describe such a
how unique and special.
Such a such a unique acquaintance, such a very colorful experience.
He's a surprising person.
There you go. It's a surprising person.
Didn't see that coming. The hairy palms. Didn't see that coming. The humidity in Tokyo is no joke either. My brother lives there, and his wedding was July. Yeah. I mean, it's slightly better than August. I feel like July was less bad than August, but that could have just been me in my exact area. But yeah, humidity over here does get very intense. We've had a couple days that were in the 90 percentile for humidity, along with the summer heat wave. So
how do you guys breathe when you get
carefully.
That much humidity? Okay, yeah, I can imagine.
And we're all still wearing masks on public transport and going out most of the time. So it's a little rough outside. So we stay inside primarily. We try not to go out at that point. It's just too much. Way too much. Not as bad when there's a breeze, though. If there's moving air, it helps a lot. It's when it's stagnant. Those were the worst days. There's a readathon in December if you want company. Oh, December. The Christmas time. Just staying in and reading with hot cocoa sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Or hot tea if you're not a chocolate fan, which is understandable.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I would go for hot cocoa.
I wish it was that cool. I need a refund if people are growing gills because I ain't got nothing.
I love Margaret's comments. They are the best.
1,000 great books. Hey, first time on the channel. Hello, welcome. Not from the U.S. I was kind of spooked by the makeup costume. Oh, my apologies. I'm not currently in the U.S. I'm outside Tokyo, but as I am American, so you can tell. I'm the only one in costume, and I'm the American.
Yeah. We don't know. Sheratan might be in costume.
True. We don't know for sure.
But
don't we all wear costumes? I mean, Mark, you could be a killer. They look like everybody else. Possibly Mark's costume is the scariest of them all.
He is right now disguised as a human. Dun, dun, dun.
Terrifying. That's so scary.
I'm actually a cat dressed as a human. There's a filter?
A cat dressed as a human.
There's the filter.
Cat who's had multiple past life experiences and knows a little bit too much about certain things, but is also a human, so you couldn't tell.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, my little friend here is disguised, and even has a pumpkin. Even has a pumpkin, see?
Aww.
So there you go.
Mine is disguised as a vampire.
That's so cute. So we have our little avatars of costumes.
I just have this pumpkin thing, and if you do this, the ghost pops out.
Isn't that like?
Woo.
I
Oh, I don't know
absolutely
the
adore
camera.
that.
I have a skull and a bat pops out of it. But
Oh my god.
It's across the room. I'll pick it up later.
Okay, that pumpkin is the true definition of peekaboo.
Peekaboo. It's very addicting, but I imagine the sound would tick people off, so I keep it at home where I can't tick off my coworkers. Also, the kids would destroy it. Kids don't have a lot of grace for stuff like that.
Oh, R.I.P.
All right. So I think we are just about due for another reading sprint. So the last timer I tried to use, unfortunately, had ads, so I had to get rid of it. So we have a 25-minute timer, so it's a little less, but it's almost the same as 30 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to that. There is no sound on it, by the way. I've turned off the sound. And I'll be turning off mics too, so you don't have to worry about my muting on your end, viewers. Everything should be silent for those who are distracted easily. So,
Yay.
Yeah, not everyone likes to listen to music while they read.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you do like listening to music as you read, I do recommend things like Lo-Fi Girl has a wonderful spooky version of the stream, and this might be the last day I think to listen to it. So before they switch back over to their more regular programming, which is sad. I'm going to miss the spooky lo-fis.
Yeah.
It's been very nice. So I do recommend that. And as always, for anyone who's newer to the stream, one of the things that we were talking about earlier in the stream was taking care of local libraries to encourage reading and literacy this Halloween. All Hallows Read is based on giving books to children instead of candy on Halloween. Since not everywhere people trick or treat, my interpretation of this is to support local libraries. So there's an article down below with a bunch of information on how you can support. The first one being going to local libraries, checking stuff out. That information gets categorized into numbers, which politicians love that, so they can determine whether or not you deserve money. So just going to your local library, checking one book out a week can do wonders for your local community. There are a lot of other tips in that article that I linked, as well as there is a link to the 5 Calls app. 5 Calls app in the United States. I'm not sure about Canada, sorry. But in the United States, this actually shows you all of your local representatives and gives you scripts so you can call them about major events, such as the call for ceasefire in Palestine, which is very, very necessary right now. But you can call them for a lot of things. There are a lot of different causes you can call about, and that also does include funding for local communities and to keep those things alive, to help care for people who do not have access to anything else. Local libraries can help a lot of people who do not have access to internet, first off. So helping people get jobs is a big part of a lot of local libraries. So please make sure you support that. And please call your local reps for a wide variety of very critical things. It takes almost no time. It's very fast, very efficient. If you live in the US, please look into that. If you're not a US resident, I'm sure your country probably has something similar. There are apps where they can give you information on who you can call to help in your communities. And again, if all else fails, just go to your local library, please, and check out a book or two, please. It can really help. And you might find a new author you like. Some of my favorite authors I discovered via the library. So I do highly recommend it. Also, sometimes they have book sales. Yes. Sometimes they have to redo their catalog, and books that used to be in the library are usually really good. Some of my best collections I used to have in the States, which I couldn't bring to Japan because they're too heavy. So I had to give them away again. But some of my favorite books I had, once again, gotten at library sales as well. Friends of the library is what we call it in the States. I'm sure wherever you live, there is something similar where they need to refresh their books. They will sell the old ones at very, very low cost, usually very, very cheap. And they can once more not be put in landfills, but also you can just find new people you like. There's some great authors you can discover in the library.
Yeah. I wanted to add also that if ever you have extra time and you want to do something like extra nice for your area and for your local library, you could like raise funds for either money wise or for books. So having like one day that people can actually donate books and then you just bring them to the library, it will mean the world to the library. And even if you don't have time to organize something like that, just if you have books that you don't need anymore and you think of donating them, consider donating it to the library because it's going to make a big difference for them. So it's like
Yes.
one thing that I highly recommend. I, by experience, tell you that they highly appreciate it, and it allows them also to donate it to people that actually do not have the funds. So also consider that, for example, for um, uh, books, school books that are barely used. If for some reason the school doesn't accept them, you can donate it in the library and they can actually give them to some kid or someone that actually needs that type of information. So that's a trick to give as well.
Yes. And this is especially true if you happen to have hardcover books in particular. They'll last a lot longer, they're a little easier for them to deal with. They can be reinforced. So if you happen to have any hardcover books that you don't plan on rereading, they're just sitting on a shelf kind of collecting dust, and they were decent books, they're decent reads, please, if you could consider donating to your local library, that can be a big help. Those books will last a lot longer and they're expensive for libraries to get a hold of. So if you donate it, it's a big thing. It's a big thing. So yes, very much so. Let's see. I might have a frozen screen. Not sure what to do about that. Okay, are we back?
Yes.
My screen froze for a second. My apologies. Bookstores are the only place where they give free bookmarks. Free bookmarks, not necessarily. A lot of book fairs, as well as back when I was in Arizona, we had some art events, artist alley walkways, and some local authors would be there and local businesses. They will also give free bookmarks sometimes. So any kind of events where you're going to find authors, especially local events, there is a good chance you can get a bookmark from them. This is both as advertisement and promo, but also is just a really cool service. It's a really good way for them to introduce themselves to you. Some of my favorite bookmarks were from like authors. That's not my phone.
So sorry about that. That's me. Just give me a second. So
Got my
sorry.
numbers from emails. Gonna send Final Destination. Oh, new covers. Congrats, Margaret. That sounds exciting, looking at covers. All right. So I think we are going to go ahead and having said all of that stuff, we're going to jump into the next reading sprint. So I'm going to go ahead and get that started, and I will see you guys in a wee bit. Okay.
All right.
Okay, gonna ease people gently back in. Hi, welcome back. So I think I'm about 1/3 through this story. It's pretty interesting. People are already dying in droves, so I think
That's
there's
great.
a vampire afoot. That's usually a vampire when people are just suddenly starting to die for unknown reasons.
Exactly.
So I do
Oh my
say
god.
she's feeding on the populace at this point.
Dun, dun, dun. Like, on my end, like, he hasn't even arrived to the castle yet.
He's just hearing about all the
So.
creepy stuff and the locals not liking the place.
Yeah, actually, he's right now in the, like, on his way, and nobody's talking. Everybody is like, well, please don't go. Just don't go.
Did the lady give him a cross yet?
But yeah, already. We already passed that.
At
We
least he's
already
got
went
that.
to, at least he got his cross. But it's funny how it is like, I took offense to that. It's like, why would she be like that? She is so annoying that someone cares, That's that's his whole demeanor.
Yeah, he kind of has it coming. What comes next?
Yeah, exactly. I
Really
feel
kept
like,
the faith there, not listening to the locals.
yeah, I feel like now that I'm rereading it, I feel like this character like loses. It's not that he doesn't like have depth, but it's one of those people, like when you see them, they look very profound, but then when you go in their brain, they're so like, you know, imploded on themselves. Is very interested. It's very interesting. I hadn't noticed that about him.
Yeah, I think until closer to the end of his part of the story, um, he's pretty close-minded as a person, and that does not bode well for him.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is a great example of why you have to open and expand your horizons. Otherwise, you end up working for a monster.
Yep, got to be discerning on that one. 1,000 great books. I've been working, writing. I got you guys in the background. Feels good to have some company, even if it's virtual. Yes. Yeah, because nothing really happens here on Halloween, not really. I really wanted to do something, but I didn't want to do writing because even though technically it's NaNoWriMo for me right now, because it's actually November 1st.
Oh,
Not NaNoWriMo for y'all yet. No cheating. You don't get to start yet.
damn.
I'm allowed to start, but you're not allowed.
Well, I can pretend that I'm in Japan right now, and then I can
In a few hours, just a few more. Not
Really? Do I
many.
have to?
What time is it over? What time is it for you right now?
9:55 p.m.
It's getting there. It's getting there.
getting
Almost
there.
10 o'clock. Once you hit
Yeah,
10, you've got what, 2 more hours? And then technically, you're in the safe zone.
Yes.
But whether or
No.
not you'll have the energy to write at midnight is another debatable thing.
As much as it would be very like gothic and Halloween-esque for me to do so, I think that I need some rest today. So
Yep.
I am looking forward to tuck myself in bed and watching some horror movies with the family. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I used to, when I was younger, be able to write at midnight and
Yes.
up to 2 a.m. in the morning writing. Not so much in my 30s. Not something I
Yes.
do in my 30s.
To me, it happens that even when I am writing, if I end up like if I finish my writing after 10:30, then very something very interesting happens. I go to sleep, and then I have either a very hard time falling asleep, or I have intermittent sleeping because I'm still in the creative mindset. So I think that I need like at least 2 hours between my writing and my sleep time to be. Otherwise, it's a disaster. I just simply can't. It disrupts my sleep, which I didn't have that before, and that was very interesting.
It does kind of make sense if you think about it, because there are lots of studies that show that you need to, like, the last thing you eat should be 2 hours before your bedtime. Like, you shouldn't eat within a 2-hour time frame before you fall asleep. Because then your body is still working too hard on digestion and things like that. It could interrupt your sleep cycle.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that the same is true of really anything, including creativity, because creativity is activating centers of your brain. So
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
do that too close to bedtime, that's still running in the background.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because before, I don't know how to explain it. I had, that dry spell the whole day, and then hitting 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, I would be like, "Woo! My creative juices are flowing. Let's just go!" And I would just create, create, create until I would be so exhausted that I would fall asleep. It's like that. I was insane like that back some years ago. And now I guess, like, by habit, I try to do the same, and then I'm like, no, I just I can't, I can't.
Yeah, it's for that. The body doesn't shut down the way it's supposed to anymore. So I've never done NaNoWriMo, but I'm really excited for it because the community aspect, understandable. I already have a work in progress that's taken a year drafting. Maybe this month is when I finish it. Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope you could finish it in November. I'm certainly going to be working on editing this year. So I actually will be doing sprints almost daily. I will actually have lives every single, I'm trying to think when it is for you guys, Monday evening for y'all in Canada and the US. There will be information. There's an entire calendar on my page, my community tab. Please check it out. I should be getting those thumbnails going and scheduled so you can actually click to get notified when the streams happen as well. Those streams will be 2 hours, much like this stream. And I will be doing editing, but y'all welcome to do writing if you'd like, or dishes. Look, I don't judge. But they will be Monday evenings. I decided on Monday evenings instead of the weekend because there are so many streams during NaNoWriMo happening on the weekend.
Yes.
But the weekdays is when everything slows down. Everything stops cold weekdays. And if you want to actually complete NaNoWriMo, you need to be working on the weekdays too.
Yeah.
I've tried it doing just weekends. It's a slog. It's rough. You don't want to rely on just weekends. Even if you can only do 1 hour during a weekday, it's worth trying to do that 1 hour. Try. I'm going to be waking up really early my time in order to do these things. For y'all, it's evening. For me, it's going to be very early morning, crack of dawn before the sun kind of stuff.
What time is for you right now?
So right now, it's like 11 a.m., just turned 11 a.m.
Wow.
But the sprints are a lot earlier. So, and I did that because I go from late shift to early shift throughout the week, unfortunately, which is horrific. But what that means is the only way I could have consistent writing and editing time would be ungodly early before all of my shifts, including before the early shifts. That was the only way for consistency to happen. So for me, it's going to be 7 a.m. in the morning. Which I'm awake at that time. Am I coherent enough to edit? We're going to find out. I've been slowly pulling my alarms earlier, so I'm waking up a little earlier, so hopefully my brain will be more and more awake. It wasn't too bad this morning, so hopefully it'll be okay. But that was the only way I can do this. The only way I can do. There was no other way, and I need to get stuff done. So it was like, I'm going to have to try. We'll see how it goes. But that's kind of what it is. For y'all, I believe it is 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I believe it's 5 p.m. Eastern Time, I believe. I've got all of the times and stuff like that listed on my community tab, and I will be posting videos so you guys can hit notifications. All of the sprints throughout the week that aren't live, those are going to be on Discord. So you can check that out as well.
It's on your Discord, right?
Yeah, because it's going to be so frequent.
Yeah, exactly.
So it'll be on my Discord so I don't bug people. Honestly, last time I did something akin to this, no one showed and I was just alone, but that's okay.
It happens.
If you want to show up, you totally can. Yeah, no pressure. But if you guys want company during your own projects, I would love to have you. Around that time we do sprints. I'm in India, so the timing might be weird. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm in Japan, so the timing's always bizarre. So for me, it's really, really early in the morning. So Tokyo time, 7 a.m. in the morning. That's Tokyo time. I don't know how that lines with India. I don't know if that's close to India's time. I don't know what time zone India is in, actually. And I come to think of it, I'm not sure what time zone they're in. I've never done that conversion before. I've done conversion for a couple other countries like Ireland. I don't think I've converted for India before. I'm not sure how close, because I'm always shocked when someone from Australia talks to me, because they're not too far from our time zone in Japan. Actually, they're only like a few hours off, which for some reason, I guess because Australia is so big, like it's a huge landmass. It's bigger than people think it is. I always thought that their time zone was further out than ours in Japan, but it's really quite close, which is interesting. Time zones just warp my brain. I get the raw concept, but the actual math, and I have to have calculators for that. I use time zone calculators because
that's the best way to go.
Yeah, I usually have anywhere between 5 to 6 different time zones in those things going at once. Oh boy, I'm 7 a.m. Tokyo is 3:30 a.m. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people who do events in the U.S. do it in the afternoon. Early afternoon in the U.S. is 3 a.m. to me, sometimes 2 a.m. So I feel you. I'm right there with you. I don't attend a lot of events and a lot of live streams for my fellow authors because of that. I feel so bad. Y'all do such fun stuff in the afternoon, and I can't show up.
Because it's too early or too late. Yeah, definitely.
And I'm usually coming from work. So like I've had a full shift and it's 2 a.m. in the morning. There's no way I can make that.
No, obviously not.
So,
oh my
it's
God.
so sad. So I usually watch a lot of replays. There'll be replays, dude. There'll always be the replays. I have
those
thought
are
about,
always useful, even if you're not present, especially for sprints.
Last year I created a bunch of playlists actually of streams because I knew I wouldn't make it on time to be live, but I was like, once they process, then I've got a playlist of a bunch of playbacks. So I just had that going while I worked. So I had like 5-6 hours of stuff I could work to do like just chunks of work.
Yeah.
So they can be useful for that. I recommend creating playlists if you're interested in playbacks. It'll help you remind you to do the playback too, because you'll just click play and it'll just go through a bunch of them.
Exactly.
There are a couple people, I don't know what the username is now. Might have changed the username, but there was 1 or 2 people who are going around finding indie authors and specifically creating playlists of their stuff during NaNoWriMo. So if you want to find,
so cool.
there are a couple of them. I'll see if I can try to find those old playlists and see if they're doing it again this year, because it's a great way to discover new people in the community that aren't getting a lot of viewership. So that's a great way to discover people. I might catch y'all if I'm too caffeinated to sleep. I've subscribed, so I hope the stream pops up. I recommend having notifications on. It was said earlier today, but my streams and videos in general do not pop up normally, even if you're subscribed, sadly. As a creator that doesn't get a lot of interaction with people, I am not considered priority on algorithm, so I get bunked down quite a lot. So I will not always show, even if I'm live. So please hit notifications. That is the only way for sure you will be notified when things go up. And again, if all else fails, them playlists are very useful. And our lovely guests today also have channels. I'm not sure if y'all are doing anything for November.
Yes, actually, I'm like, because I had planned to release my first story for my horror narration channel today, but then I had a corrupt file. So it's gonna go for the end of the week, but it's gonna go this week for sure. For sure, you guys are gonna have it out. And but yeah, I have that horror narration channel, and that is called Insomniac Delirium. And basically we explore mostly horror narration on regarding sleep disorders, because I want to raise awareness regarding sleep disorders, but I also want to mix it with that element of the paranormal and the supernatural, so we can talk about the scientific facts, but also we can talk about, well, yes, but there are certain things that we cannot understand. What is this about? And I'm sharing some stories, how someone with a specific type of sleep disorders experiences them, some personal stories as well. So once we start getting that going this week, I hope you enjoy it and check it out for sure.
Yes, I'll
And
try to see if I can add that to the description box for y'all.
yes.
I'll see if I can find that and add that linker, because I didn't have that prior. So I will add that link down below.
Yes, and also on my main channel, I'm gonna be going for NaNoWriMo. I'm gonna be doing some working with me live streams, and I also am gonna be presenting a little bit what was my process for Preptober, which I wanted to do it more structured like than last year, because last year was the year that I discovered NaNoWriMo. And well, I knew about it before last year, but it was like just last year that I really, really went into it and delved, and I was like, oh my god, what was I doing? Why didn't I got into this before? So but it was a mess last year, so this year I did it more structured, so I'm going to be also be sharing that with you guys on my main channel. So, and it goes by Sheratan Mortis, like my
Yes,
name.
the main channel is linked. I do have
Yeah.
main channels linked, both for Sheratan as well as for Marc. So if you're interested in either of their channels, they are linked in the description box right now. I just need to
Yeah.
grab that extra link for the secondary channel.
Yeah, for Marc also, I don't know if you guys know, or he talked a little bit about it. He does also Haunted Montreal in with our other author Holly Rhiannon, which we did an anthology together, all of us. and and yes, they do have Haunted Montreal. Marc André is the one in charge with the French version, and Holly is in charge with an English version, and they say all these really, really cool stories regarding the hauntings in Montreal and different areas, and there's a lot of historical facts that you would not know otherwise. So I really, really recommend you guys checking that channel as well. And and talking about like the book that we like published, like this is our beauty, called the Stygian Collection. Corey, Marc André, me, and other what it would be 21 authors. We did this anthology with the theme Stygian, which is of the gloomy or hellish. And there's short stories, there's poems. Some of them are horror based, but it's not the only genre. We have also sci-fi, we have philosophy. It's a very complete book that it is extremely interesting, because even if the stories are very diversified, when you read the book from beginning to end, it ties up together so nicely. It's like almost like if we really got together and thought of a bigger picture, but we didn't. We, most of us, we didn't knew each other before we entered into this together. So I highly recommend our collection. Also, the Stygian Society, which is the press, is doing a little sale until until November 1st, so in a couple of hours. But if you are interested in checking it out, go to stygiansociety.com and just enter Spooky 13 before midnight, and you should have a 13% discount on the book. We have it on physical form, ebook. Normally, we're shipping to United States and Canada. If you want outside United States and Canada, you can also find the book on Amazon.
Yes. So. And it got, despite the fact that I'm in Japan, this got to me actually relatively fast. So it was a pretty good process. Unfortunately, I think it was a lot of work for poor Holly, but
yeah, it was.
It did arrive safely in time. And I'm still reading through it personally because I'm a very slow reader of physical books at this time. I have a really hard time paying attention. Been getting more into audiobooks, sadly, but I have been going through it. So far, my favorite story in the beginning part is The Oarsman.
Yes, The Horseman is so good.
The Oarsman is so good by Dave Aldrich. I don't know if I've been able to meet Dave in any of like the meetings or streams yet. But I absolutely love The Oarsman. Yeah, I love that one. That's my favorite so far. But yeah, my little recommendation outside of, my own stuff and whatnot, but like that, y'all need to try that one for sure.
Yeah,
so if you have not read that one yet, please pick up a copy. Spooky 13 is the code. There is a link down below if you guys would like to use it to get directly to that page on the website. But yes, please.
And also we have like, not only that, we also have merch in the website. So
yes,
you can also check it out.
Beautiful artists.
Yeah.
Oh my
God. This is a Montreal-based artist named Laurie, and the editing of basically the one that put everything together at the end was Chandra. So, but Laurie, like it's amazing. She goes by Nihil on Instagram, and she does all this. What surprised me the most about the cover page is that she did all of this by hand in less than like 3 months. I was so shocked by how fast
it was. All of the artwork throughout the book.
Yeah. So
she did artwork throughout. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
I love it.
And so you can also find stickers on the website that have like that artwork, which is great. I just got the little notebook that they have.
Oh, that looks so nice! It came in.
Yeah, it came in. It is like dotted. It's like a little
dotted is superior. Yes.
And it's really nice. It's not, I imagined it bigger, but I actually like it that it's this size, because it goes like, it's almost like, it goes perfectly together. I really love it. So there's a lot that you guys can check out, and I like, it's not sponsored on my end, but I really, really, really enjoy this so much. Like, I'm so proud of what we did, and I want to spread the word as much as possible regarding everything that we have outside, especially because of what we were able to accomplish, with this book. So yeah.
Yes, very recommend. It's a great spooky read in general. So and they're all short stories, so you can sit down, read one, and like kind of take a break and come back to it when you have time. So sometimes a little easier to read than an entire huge book. I'm still in pain trying to get through one that was way too big. I don't know why I started that book. I started a book that's it's a brick. I didn't know it was a brick though, because I had it digital, so I couldn't tell. I thought I was doing well. I was like, I'm on chapter 15. I'm doing good. Then I looked at how many chapters grand total there were. 75 chapters.
Oh no.
I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I can imagine.
This book is gonna outlive me.
Yeah.
So this one's manageable. We can do this.
Yeah, this one is manageable. And like, one of the things that I love about the Stygian collection is that we all have is made by people that also, like, we all have some sort of YouTube channel, or we do things on YouTube, right? And so what you could do is, like, you read a story or a poem, and then you go in the back and you can see the authors, and you can have like their links, right? So then you go check out the author, and I don't know, like, I've been doing that with this book, and I find it so much, like, interesting. It's such an enriching experience, because then I get to see who am I reading and where is it coming from. Many of these are like a total shocker, considering some of our authors, this is not their genre, and they got out of their comfort zone, and they did amazing, right? So I find that it is a very nice add-on that I don't think that I've had an experience like that with other books, and I think that this is also why I enjoy so much what we did, because of that, because it was not only pleasant to submit, but it is also pleasant to read and have the experience with the actual book. So
Yes. We did have a comment from Thousand Great Books. Oh, I think they were talking about your stuff about like in insomnia and whatnot. Fatal,
Fatal,
Familiar,
Familiar,
and
and Insomnia. Yeah.
Strangest, Scariest. Yeah, there are some really quite dangerous ones.
Mm-hmm.
One of my friends has a lot of periods of not being able to get out of sleep, being trapped.
Yes.
That is such. It's only happened to me once. It was horrible.
Yeah.
I was scared to go to sleep for a little bit after that. That was such a bad experience.
Yeah.
I can't imagine facing that on the regular.
Yeah.
Really
No,
can't.
I actually suffer from one that is called hypnopompic hallucinations. So basically, it's just like you are in REM sleep, and then you're trying to wake up, right? And that period of time between falling asleep to from being in REM sleep to waking up, the brain is trying to process things. And what happens with hypnopompic hallucinations, which is extremely common, uh, you open your eyes and you start kind of like see, like, your brain is still dreaming, so you see things that are not there, but it doesn't last always. It just lasts until you completely wake up, and then it's fine, right? But it's such a scary experience. And actually, my first story is exactly about that. Is exactly about my first experience dealing with that. And I'm telling you, I had never experienced something like that before. It started to happen more on my 20s. And I was extremely shocked. Then I started to research and realize not many people know about this. So I started a support group to just find out that it's so common. Like I have in my support group, I have almost 2,000 members. So it is really common, and I had no idea. So yeah, I want to raise more awareness about things that are so rare, but also that are so scary, and that people feel alone in, and they don't know how to deal with it. And just to say, hey, you're not alone. It doesn't necessarily need to be that intense as an experience when you have a community that can support you. So
I always wonder, because it's kind of interesting if you read a lot of the life and even personal writing, like diary entries from a lot of older authors. Insomnia was relatively, I wouldn't quite say common, but I think it is more of a frequent occurrence than people would think within creatives, especially.
yeah.
And I always kind of wonder how much of a correlation there is between people who are highly creative and having things like insomnia, difficulty sleeping, that kind of thing.
It's true. That is a good point to explore, and I really want to explore that more in my specifically in that channel. So hopefully we
Do you
can get to
notice
go.
that during periods of like intense creativity, such as like NaNoWriMo, do you typically have like upticks in your insomnia, or does it get better, or does it stay the same?
It actually gets peaked. Like that's exactly what has been happening to me the last week. I have been doing a lot of editing on my videos, and it's like sort of like a new experience because I had never taken it to seriously to this point, and I really want to create like an immersive experience, right? So I've been very in depth with my creativity and my creative process, and then like I have been having like really hard time falling asleep for the last week, and it aligns with what I'm doing. So I think that yeah, that there definitely can be a correlation about it.
That's kind of it. The reason I ask is because it's something that I've spoken to with another friend of mine, and she's not an author. Well, she does writing in a way. She's a graphic artist, so she does both story writing as well as the graphic art, and so she's doing both simultaneously, which is crazy difficult. But she's mentioned before that at times she's had to completely slow or stop creative process just in order to rest because of things like flares happening. And as
Yeah.
much as she wants to create the art and she has a heart and passion for it, sometimes the passion goes faster than her body is able to keep up with. And
Yeah,
it's kind of
exactly.
frustrating things because you want to create so bad and you love creating. The creation process is so wonderful and magical, but it's also can be very detrimental to our health,
Yes.
unfortunately, too.
Yes,
Goodness.
it's true.
It's
Has it
saddening.
happened to you that you get like a
Um,
insomniac moments?
not for me, it's the opposite. I get overtired because it takes so much energy. So, especially things like editing, I've noticed like when I do an editing session of let's say I do an hour editing session, which is what I am going to be doing. After that 1 hour editing, it feels like I had been writing for 5 hours in comparison. Like
Yeah.
the comparison is massively different. And as a result, if I try to edit for extended periods of time, which I've done before for my Mel series, my Mad Editor Laboratory series, I've done days where I did 5 hours editing. It felt like my soul was sucked out of my body at the end of that. It's hard to describe the exhaustion afterwards. I was almost falling asleep standing up. It felt like my body had been hit by a truck.
Oh, wow.
So I would have to lie down almost immediately, which is very frustrating because a lot of authors can go through a lot longer, and it's frustrating because it's just like I constantly feel like I'm just so exhausted physically, so drained. So it's very hard to get chunks of work done.
It's
Reddit helped me
ooh,
figure out this weird thing that used to happen to me, sometimes still does. Super weird, but I'm glad it only happened 8 or 9 times. Yeah, sometimes,
take a sense.
honestly, the best thing is to find communities of people who've gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
They can be sometimes more helpful than doctors, depending on where you live. Sometimes getting a hold of a doctor or specialist is really difficult or impossible in your area. And so that's when community really steps in. Everything gets faster. Things feel small and large simultaneously. Sounds are loud and muffled as though coming from another room, and other weird things. Goes away in 15 minutes by itself. That is scary, though. That would be scary to endure.
Yeah, but at least it happened. It happened 8 to 9 times. At least it's not something that is like recurrent and
Every
concurrently
day.
happening too. So at least, I mean, it's unfortunate that you experience something like that, but at least hope like the good thing is exactly that it hasn't been as recurrent as
And
other
I'm glad you found a
experience.
community that can help you diagnose and figure out what was going on.
Yeah,
Labeling it does help because then you know what you're facing. It's so much scarier when you go through something you have no idea what just happened to you.
exactly.
That's scary. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you found a community to help for sure. Okay, so
God.
we are over 2 hours for this stream. We're at 2:26, and it is getting a little later for you over there,
Yeah.
Canada. So I do think I do have to let everyone go so you can get some rest, maybe wind down for your evening, get some sleep. Speaking of sleep, is very necessary, even though it's hard to obtain sometimes. It's
Yes.
worth trying. And I should probably eat something more sustainable than granola.
Definitely.
Almost, it's noon over here almost, so I should
Ooh.
probably consume food.
Lunchtime.
Yeah, pretty much. So thank you guys so much for being here on this stream and for reading with us. I'm very interested to finish off this. I think I could do it today, later today.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can finish this today. And then tomorrow we start NaNoWriMo officially. So for me, I will be trying to do some sprinting and everything tomorrow. I might be trying to do it live, actually, since it's the first day officially. Right. So I might be trying to do that, and it would be at that same time, really early. So I'll see you guys tomorrow before work for me.
Before work.
Yeah, right before work for me.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice to see y'all. Please keep an eye on our channels. It seems like Sheratan is also going to be doing some sprints, so keep an eye on their channel. And we look forward to seeing you for NaNoWriMo. Godspeed. Have a wonderful evening of Halloween for y'all, and we will see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye.